The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear.
And we heavily went into Skinwalker Ranch, property of Robert Bigelow's. He offered a facility where we could see UFOs and the paranormal at once in one location.
How did this ranch in northeastern Utah, previously owned by Las Vegas aerospace tycoon Robert Bigelow, become a key part of the government's classified UFO investigation? It started at DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, where rocket scientist and intelligence analyst Dr. James Lakatsky and a colleague, Jay Stratton, became both puzzled and alarmed by reports about UFO intrusions at many of our nation's most sensitive national defense facilities.
For hundreds of years, the Navajo people of the American Southwest have warned of the Unaldushi, the Skinwalker, a malevolent entity capable of taking the form of an animal or mimicking the voices of the people you love. We were told these were just stories, campfire tales meant to keep people from wandering into the dark. In 2008, the world was completely unaware that one of the largest UFO investigations in American history had just been authorized. It was championed by Nevada Senator Harry Reid, driven by intelligence officers and funded with black budget money. The acronym was OSAP. While the world looked at the stars for UFOs, the DIA was looking at a patch of land in Utah called Skinwalker Ranch. They weren't just looking for lights in the sky, they were hunting things that shouldn't exist. Scientists and intelligence officers with top-secret clearances encountered phenomena that defied physics, creatures that appeared out of thin air and vanished just as fast. The program was spearheaded by DIA rocket scientist Dr. James Lakatsky and an intelligence analyst named Jay Stratton. Their initial mission was standard: investigate reports of UFO intrusions at the nation's most sensitive military facilities. Were these craft Russian, Chinese? But as the data poured in, Lakatsky and his team realized they had a massive problem. The phenomenon wasn't just machinery in the sky, it was biological, and it was hostile. Enter Robert Bigelow, a Las Vegas aerospace tycoon. Bigelow offered the government a highly classified testing ground, a place where UFOs and the paranormal didn't just overlap, they collided. A place the locals called Skinwalker Ranch.
Not just UFOs, but also unknown creatures, things that presumably exist only in myths or movies.
Okay.
Bigelow's organization, NIDS, moved on to the ranch, and its team of scientists and investigators began collecting testimony from residents, then started seeing the creatures and phenomena for themselves. Lakatsky, Stratton, and the bosses at DIA were intrigued, not repelled, by the wild stories. They wanted to know if UFOs and the seemingly related paranormal incidents might be considered a threat.
Because I could see from my organization the threat potential, and we weren't covering many of the things you were observing. Strange creatures. I mean, think of inducing these, what might be called illusions by some people, into an enemy force. We wanted to learn what can be weaponized here.
Lakatsky and Stratton put together a program which DIA approved. The acronym was OSAP. Senator Harry Reid helped secure the funding, and Bigelow Aerospace was the contractor. 50 full-time investigators were hired, obtained top-secret security clearances, and went to work.
Investigators with top-secret clearances set up monitoring equipment across the property. What they witnessed shattered their understanding of reality. They found that wherever these unknown crafts appeared, reality seemed to fracture. The UFOs acted as a catalyst, or perhaps a doorway for entities that defied all logic. The team didn't just collect stories from terrified locals. they began seeing the creatures themselves, entities that matched the descriptions of ancient cryptids. Were these the Skinwalkers of Navajo legend? The OSAP database suggested something far more terrifying. These beings were not native to Earth. They were byproducts of the UFO phenomenon. Alien entities or interdimensional drones manifesting in terrifying physical forms. But the true horror of the OSAP files isn't what happened at the ranch. It's what happened when the investigators tried to leave.
Perhaps the strangest experience reported by nearly everyone in OSAP who visited the Bigelow Ranch is what is now known as the Hitchhiker Effect. At least 5 highly experienced intelligence officers who went to the ranch to check things out came into contact with paranormal phenomena and then took it home with them. They and their families would see balls of light inside their homes, shadowy figures, even creatures that were physical, not merely a mental image. After one investigator returned from the ranch to his East Coast home, his entire family was bedeviled by orbs and what they described as a wolf that walked on 2 legs.
They called it the Hitchhiker Effect. At least 5 highly experienced intelligence officers visited the Bigelow Ranch to check the sensors and gather data. They came into contact with the phenomena, and when their deployment ended, the phenomena followed them home. Thousands of miles away on the East Coast, one investigator returned to his family. Days later, the nightmare began. His wife and children began seeing floating balls of light inside their home. Shadowy humanoid figures stood at the foot of their beds. But it wasn't just hallucinations. The family reported being terrorized by a massive wolf-like creature that walked perfectly upright on 2 legs in their own backyard just outside Washington, D.C. It left deep, physical scratch marks on the trees. The government realized these entities weren't bound to Utah. They functioned like a virus. Once you observed them, they attached themselves to your consciousness, and they could physically cross the country to hunt you.
The main focus was UFOs and UFO technology, but one smaller focus was measurable health effects on people who encountered a UFO and were physically harmed or developed rare diseases, including psychological effects. That allowed OSAP to cast a wide net and to report seemingly outlandish stories about creatures, poltergeist-type activity, and other weirdness. Dr. Lakatsky says that OSAP created a massive database of UFO accounts, but the witnesses were typically reluctant to admit that they had also had paranormal experiences after encountering UFOs.
We realized that people who openly say and are confident enough to say, I observed a UFO up close, maybe on the ground, that they always seem to have a paranormal connection in some way if you gently push them. And that's why you have to say paranormal. I mean, what did it get in a train or plane and come to Washington? It left deep scratch marks on the tree it was resting against. There was physical evidence.
Why did the Defense Intelligence Agency keep funding this? Why not burn the files and walk away from something so deeply demonic? Because of the threat and the potential. Dr. Lakatsky noted that these entities could induce profound physical and psychological effects. They caused rare diseases, radiation burns, and severe psychological trauma. The government wasn't just documenting monsters. They wanted to know, can this be weaponized? Imagine a military that could induce illusions or unleash actual cryptids into an enemy force. Imagine dropping the Hitchhiker Effect on a foreign capital. By the end of 2010, the reports became simply too weird. The higher-ups at the Pentagon didn't kill the program because it was fake. They buried it because they didn't want to see it on the front page of the Washington Post. The OSAP was officially disbanded, but its findings survived. Elements of the research were spun off into deep black projects hidden under code names like Kona Blue. The government knows exactly what is out there. They know the folklore is real, and they know that the things hiding in the dark aren't just animals. What are your thoughts about this?
DIA had killed OSAP at the end of 2010 because the reports it received were simply too weird.
Did they ever have the opinion that, oh gosh, this is getting kind of weird?
No, they never did. They basically wanted kept quiet. That's all. They didn't want to see it in the Washington Post.
As we peel back the layers of the OSAP, we are forced to confront a reality that is far more uncomfortable than simple ghost stories. For decades, the public was led to believe that the search for extraterrestrial life was a search for signals from distant stars, for radio waves from light years away. But the files of Dr. James Lakatsky and the DIA tell a different story. They tell us that the aliens aren't just out there, they are here. The Hitchhiker Effect is perhaps the most chilling discovery in modern intelligence. It suggests that these entities, whether you call them skinwalkers, aliens, or interdimensional beings, don't just occupy a physical space, they occupy a frequency. Once you become aware of them, they become aware of you. Like a biological signal, you are tagged. And as the investigators found, no amount of distance, no high security clearance, and no locked door can keep them out once the connection is made. So, tonight, when you turn off the lights and the house begins to settle, pay attention to the shadows in the corner of your eye. Listen for the sound of footsteps that don't belong to you. Because according to the most sophisticated intelligence program in history, some things don't stay in the desert, some things follow you home. The idea that we are alone in the universe is so absurd that I cannot believe it. Neil deGrasse Tyson, astrophysicist.